July 19, 1956, 10:37 p.m., the 28th Precinct smells like stale coffee and old rage. 50 people watch in silence. Not one of them breathes. Detective Mike Donnelly's service revolver presses so hard against Bumpy Johnson's temple that his fedora falls. It hits the linoleum floor. The sound echoes like a gunshot. Donnelly's finger tightens on the trigger. His knuckles go white. He's screaming now. Every word drips with venom. Every threat carries the weight of 8 years on the force. 8 years of power. 8 years of believing no black man could touch him. Not even Harlem's Godfather. Bumpy doesn't flinch. He doesn't beg. He doesn't plead. He smiles. The kind of smile that makes dangerous men nervous. The kind that says he knows something you don't. Something that will destroy you. Then Bumpy leans forward, into the gun, into the cold steel pressed against his skull. His lips move. One word. 5 letters. Whispered so softly only Donnelly can hear. The detective's hand starts shaking. The gun trembles against Bumpy's temple. Donnelly's face goes pale, ash white, like he's seen a ghost, like he's staring into his own grave. What word did Bumpy whisper that made a corrupt cop shake? What secret did Harlem's most dangerous man carry that was more powerful than a loaded gun pressed to his head? In 60 seconds, this precinct would learn that Bumpy Johnson's deadliest weapon wasn't violence, it was patience wrapped in perfect information. 3 years earlier, 1953. Harlem after midnight, the numbers racket flows through these streets like blood. It's the neighborhood's heartbeat. The only gambling game where a black man making $7 a week can dream, 25 cents on a 3-digit number. If it hits, you win 600 times your bet. For the families cramped in Lenox Avenue tenements, the numbers aren't just gambling. They're hope you can hold in your hand. They're medicine for a sick child. Rent money when the landlord comes knocking. A way out of drowning, and the NYPD wants their cut. Detective Mike Donnelly runs the 28th Precinct like his personal kingdom. He's got 6 officers on his payroll. Every numbers runner, every policy banker, every envelope of cash flowing through Harlem Donnelly takes 20%. He's been collecting for 8 years. Built himself a house in Westchester, bought his wife a Cadillac, sends his kids to private school upstate, all on Harlem's dimes. But Donnelly makes one mistake, one fatal miscalculation. He assumes Bumpy Johnson is just another gangster, another black criminal to be squeezed and controlled, another man who'll bow when white authority walks through the door. Bumpy isn't just another gangster, he's a strategist who studied philosophy in prison, who reads Shakespeare by candlelight in the back room of Small's Paradise, who understands that real power isn't about who can hit hardest, it's about who can wait longest. So when Donnelly comes collecting his first envelope in 1953, Bumpy pays. He pays every month, on time, with a smile. And every time Donnelly collects, Bumpy's watching, taking notes, building a file, photographing license plates, recording conversations, tracking bank deposits. For 3 years, Bumpy plays the role, the obedient gangster, the man who knows his place, all while documenting every dirty dollar Donnelly steals from the neighborhood that raised him. Donnelly thinks he's untouchable, a white cop with a badge in 1950s New York. He might as well be God. Internal affairs won't touch him. The district attorney's office looks the other way. The newspapers don't care about corruption in Harlem, but Bumpy doesn't need the system. He needs leverage, and he's been building it, piece by piece, photograph by photograph for 36 months. Until tonight, when Donnelly makes his second mistake. He tries to humiliate Bumpy Johnson in public. Bumpy Johnson doesn't have informants. He has invisible eyes. The parking attendant outside the 28th Precinct? He works for Bumpy. The shoeshine boy who polishes Donnelly's boots every Tuesday? Bumpy pays him $20 a week. The janitor who empties the trash cans in the detective's bullpen? She's on Bumpy's payroll too. These are the people powerful men don't see. The ones who blend into walls and sweep floors and open doors. The ones who overhear conversations meant to be private, who find crumpled receipts in wastebaskets, who notice which detectives meet which mob bosses in which alleys after dark. Bumpy learned this strategy decades ago from Stephanie St. Clair. The numbers queen of Harlem taught him that information flows through the powerless. The people white cops ignore become the most valuable intelligence network in New York. So Bumpy built a spider's web across Harlem. Every doorman, every waitress, every bartender, every numbers runner on every corner from 110th Street to 155th. They don't know they're gathering intelligence. They're just sharing gossip, mentioning who they saw where, dropping names, but Bumpy pieces it together. In his office above Lenox Lounge, surrounded by leather-bound books and jazz records, he connects dots other men can't see. He reads Machiavelli and Sun Tzu, studies chess problems until dawn, practices a philosophy that makes him untouchable in a world designed to destroy black men. Never act from emotion, always move from position. When Dutch Schultz tried to muscle into Harlem's numbers in the 30s, Bumpy didn't fight him with guns. He gathered information on Schultz's operations, mapped his supply lines, identified his weak points, then he fed that intelligence to Lucky Luciano. Let the Italian mob solve the problem. When the 5 families tried to cut him out after World War II, Bumpy didn't go to war. He documented their heroin shipments, photographed their distribution networks. Then he sat on that information, waiting, until the moment came when those photographs were worth more than bullets. That's what makes Bumpy Johnson legendary. He doesn't react. He plans. 3 moves ahead. 5 moves ahead. 5 moves ahead. Sometimes 3 years ahead. Like with Detective Donnelly, step out of Small's paradise at midnight. Let your eyes adjust. Lenox Avenue glows amber under streetlights. The smell of fried chicken and collard greens drifts from Sylvia's. Trumpet notes float from second-story windows. Someone's practicing Coltrane. Someone else is practicing survival. This is Harlem in 1956, post-war, pre-civil rights. A neighborhood caught between Duke Ellington and desperation. The Lenox Lounge sits at the corner of 125th Street like a jewel box. Art Deco curves and chrome trim. Inside, the zebra room glows blue. Billie Holiday sang here last month. Malcolm X comes here to talk revolution over coffee. The bar serves whiskey in crystal glasses to numbers runners and jazz musicians and revolutionaries who all look over their shoulders when they laugh. Walk down 133rd Street, past the brownstones where Marcus Garvey once lived, past the barber shops where men debate the Bible and baseball and whether a black man can ever truly win in America, past the storefront churches where gospel singers pour their souls into Sunday morning. Every block has a numbers runner, young men in pressed slacks and polished shoes. They carry betting slips folded in their jacket pockets. They know every face, every name, every regular who plays the same 3 digits every day. Hoping, always hoping. The numbers racket flows $20 million to Harlem every year. That's not mob money. That's community money. That's the black economy the white newspapers don't talk about. That's what pays for new school clothes and emergency hospital bills and funerals when somebody dies too young. And corrupt cops like Donnelly bleed it dry. But there's a rhythm to the violence here, a pattern Bumpy understands better than anyone. Violence in Harlem isn't random, it's communication. A body found in an alley, that's a message. A broken window, that's a warning. Blood on a barbershop floor, that's a period at the end of a sentence. Bumpy speaks this language fluently. He learned it from watching Stephanie St. Clair go to war with Dutch Schultz. Watched her refuse to back down when the Italian mob sent 40 hitmen to take her territory. Watched her fight for 3 years until Schultz died choking on his own blood. She taught Bumpy that in Harlem, reputation is currency, respect is armor. And the man who controls information controls everything. So when Bumpy walks into the 28th precinct on July 19, 1956, he's not walking into danger. He's walking into the culmination of 36 months of patience, of planning, of gathering every scrap of evidence that will bury Detective Mike Donnelly. The precinct is crowded tonight. 50 witnesses, men arrested for drunk and disorderly, women picked up for solicitation, a couple of teenagers caught breaking into a pawn shop. They're all watching. Donnelly spots Bumpy at the front desk. Something snaps inside him. Maybe it's the way Bumpy stands, relaxed, confident, like he owns the place, like he's not afraid. That confidence enrages Donnelly. Here's this black gangster in his precinct, acting like he belongs, acting like he's equal, acting like the badge on Donnelly's chest doesn't mean he can take everything Bumpy has and leave him bleeding in an alley. So Donnelly decides to teach a lesson in front of everyone. Make an example. Show these people what happens when you forget your place. He crosses the room, his service revolver already drawn. He grabs Bumpy by the collar, shoves the gun against his temple, hard enough that Bumpy's fedora falls. The sound of it hitting the floor makes everyone flinch. Donnelly shouting now. calling Bumpy every name he can think of, threatening to blow his brains across the linoleum, promising to make him disappear, swearing that no one will care when they find his body in the Harlem River. But Bumpy's not listening to the words. He's watching Donnelly's eyes, looking for the moment, the precise instant when confidence turns to doubt. Then Bumpy smiles. That same smile that made Dutch Schultz nervous, that made Lucky Luciano reconsider his position. That made powerful men realize they've miscalculated. Bumpy leans forward, into the gun. The barrel presses harder against his skull. His lips barely move. One word, 5 letters. Baker. The color drains from Donnelly's face. His hand starts shaking. The gun trembles. His finger loosens on the trigger, because Baker isn't just a name, it's Detective William Baker, Donnelly's silent partner, the man who handles the money, the one who deposits the protection payments into offshore accounts, the one Donnelly swore didn't exist, the one nobody was supposed to know about. But Bumpy knows everything. He knows about the house in Westchester bought with cash in Baker's wife's maiden name. He knows about the safety deposit boxes in 3 different banks. He knows about the Thursday afternoon meetings in the back room of a Portuguese restaurant on Amsterdam Avenue. Bumpy has photographs, bank records, recordings of phone conversations, a complete map of the corruption network that runs through the 28th precinct like poison through veins. 72 hours, Bumpy says. His voice is calm, almost friendly. That's how long he had before Internal Affairs gets the file. Unless you walk away right now, put the gun down, apologize in front of everyone here, and never ever forget who really runs Harlem. Donnelly's hand drops. The gun falls to his side. His face is pale, sweating. He looks like he might vomit. Bumpy reaches down, picks up his fedora, brushes off the dust, places it back on his head at that perfect angle. Then he turns to the room, to the 50 witnesses who've watched this entire exchange. The detective made a mistake, Bumpy announces. His voice carries authority. He apologizes for the confusion. Donnelly nods. His mouth works, but no sound comes out. Finally, barely a whisper, "I apologize." Bumpy walks out, back straight, head high, 40 seconds from having a gun pressed to his temple to complete victory. Not a single shot fired, not a single punch thrown, just information, delivered at the perfect moment. 72 hours later, the arrests begin. Internal Affairs storms the 28th precinct at dawn. They have warrants, they have evidence, they have a file 3 inches thick documenting 8 years of corruption. Bank records, photographs, testimony from witnesses who suddenly found courage. Detective Mike Donnelly is arrested at his house in Westchester. They find $40,000 in cash hidden in his basement, another $60,000 in offshore accounts, evidence of protection rackets, bribery, extortion. 6 other officers go down with him, the whole network exposed. The newspaper headlines scream about police corruption in Harlem. The district attorney calls it the biggest scandal in NYPD history, but Bumpy Johnson's name never appears in the investigation. Not once, not in any report, not in any testimony. That's the genius of it. That's what makes Bumpy untouchable. He didn't seek revenge, he didn't make it personal, he simply let the system destroy itself with its own evidence, with its own corruption exposed to sunlight, and he kept one piece of the file, one photograph, one recorded conversation just in case. Just insurance. Because that's Bumpy's code. He doesn't destroy enemies completely. He educates them, shows them the cost of disrespect. Then he gives them a choice. Walk away, remember the lesson, or push further and face consequences that can't be survived. Most men choose to walk away. The ones who don't? Their stories become cautionary tales whispered in Harlem barbershops, warnings passed between criminals and cops alike. Everyone learns the same lesson eventually. You can't intimidate a man who's always 3 moves ahead. You can't threaten someone who's already documented your entire life. You can't press a gun to the temple of a strategist who's been waiting 3 years for exactly that moment. That night at Small's Paradise, Bumpy sits in his usual booth, the one in the back corner where he can see both doors. He's reading Machiavelli by candlelight. A glass of Hennessy sits untouched on the table. Billie Holiday's voice drifts through the speakers. A young numbers runner approaches, nervous, respectful. Mr. Johnson, the neighborhood's talking. About what happened with Donnelly. Everyone's saying you're protected, that you're untouchable. Bumpy looks up from his book, studies the young man's face, sees hunger there, ambition, the same hunger he felt 40 years ago when he first came to Harlem from South Carolina. I'm not protected, Bumpy says quietly. I'm prepared. There's a difference. Protection is what other men give you. Preparation is what you give yourself. He gestures to the chair across from him. The young man sits. You want to survive in this world? Bumpy continues. You want to build something that lasts? Then understand this. Violence is the language of amateurs. Information is the language of professionals. Any fool can pull a trigger. But a wise man? He makes sure it never has to. The lesson spreads through Harlem like gospel, like scripture. The story of the night Bumpy Johnson smiled with a gun to his head. The night he whispered one word and broke a corrupt cop without firing a shot. It becomes legend. The kind of story fathers tell sons. The kind that mothers whisper as warnings. The kind that makes Bumpy Johnson's name mean something beyond fear. It means respect earned through intelligence. Power wielded with precision. Justice delivered with patience. Today, Bumpy Johnson's name echoes through history. Forrest Whitaker plays him on television. Rappers name drop him in songs. His story inspires generations who understand that real power doesn't come from violence. It comes from preparation meeting opportunity. Think about that moment. July 19, 1956. A corrupt cop with a loaded gun, 50 witnesses, no way out. Bumpy Johnson should have died that night. Every logical calculation said he wouldn't survive. But Bumpy didn't operate on logic. He operated on strategy, on patience, on the understanding that true power isn't about what you can do in the moment. It's about what you prepared for years ago. So, here's the question that haunts me. What would you have done if you were Bumpy Johnson, standing in that precinct with a gun to your head? Would you have had the discipline to spend 3 years gathering evidence, the patience to wait for the perfect moment, the courage to lean into the gun instead of away from it? Or would you have fought back, pulled your own weapon, died in a blaze of glory that everyone forgets by next Tuesday? That's the difference between legend and forgotten, between strategy and reaction, between men who change history and men who become footnotes. Bumpy Johnson chose preparation. He chose intelligence. He chose to play chess while everyone else played checkers. And when the moment came, when death pressed cold steel against his temple, he smiled. Because he knew something his enemy didn't. The game was already over. He'd won 3 years ago. If this story made you think differently about power, about patience, about the cost of preparation, then you're ready for the next chapter. Because Bumpy Johnson's war with corrupt cops was just one battle, his conflict with the 5 families, his relationship with Malcolm X as the civil rights movement exploded, the moment Lucky Luciano tried to cut him out of the biggest heroin deal in New York history, those stories are even more dangerous, even more brilliant, even more proof that Ellsworth Bumpy Johnson wasn't just a gangster. He was a philosopher with a gun, a strategist who happened to operate outside the law, a man who understood that the greatest victory isn't destroying your enemy, it's making them destroy themselves while you watch from the shadows. Subscribe, because the next story reveals what happened when Bumpy Johnson sat down with Malcolm X the week before the assassination, what they discussed, what Bumpy knew was coming, and why he couldn't stop it. That conversation changed American history, and most people will never know it happened. But you will, if you're ready to learn how real power moves in silence, how legends are built on patience, how one man from Charleston, South Carolina became the most respected figure in Harlem without ever needing to pull a trigger. Comment below, was Bumpy Johnson a hero or a villain, a protector of Harlem or a criminal who profited from suffering? Does preparation justify the methods? Does intelligence excuse the violence? I want to know what you think, because Bumpy Johnson's legacy isn't simple, it's not clean, it's not something you can label and put in a box. It's as complicated as Harlem itself, as nuanced as the line between justice and revenge, as powerful as a single word whispered at the perfect moment, a word that made a corrupt cop's gun fall silent, a word that proved information beats intimidation, a word that became legend. Baker, 5 letters that changed everything.